What's up, YouTube? Jeff back again from High on Android, DopeTechDaily.com. And today, finally, we're going to get into my full review of the Galaxy Note 5 and the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. Now, I unboxed these phones quite a while ago, and I had so many products come in, I sort of got behind. So I'm really late as hell on this review. So this review is probably going to be a little quicker than my normal reviews. You guys know I like to go, 20, 25 minutes. But there's a few reasons why this review is going to be pretty quick. One, both of these phones have design language that's very similar to two other phones which I've already reviewed, the Galaxy S6, the Galaxy S6 Edge. In addition to the build quality, which is one thing I normally spend a lot of time talking about in a review, they also have cameras that are identical and almost identical in terms of software and hardware features to the Galaxy S6 and the Galaxy S6 Edge. So there's a few new manual controls, we'll talk a little bit about that, a few new features, but in terms of the build quality, it's very similar to those phones. So just quickly to touch on it, these two phones themselves are almost identical. You've probably heard a lot about them at this point. And of course, the main things that separate them are the S Pen you've got on the Galaxy Note 5 right there. We'll talk a little more about that in a minute. But the S Pen, and then on the back of the Note 5, you can see you've got these subtle curved edges on the back of the phone itself. While on the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, you can see you've got the curved screen, of course, along the side of the front. On the back, though, you still got the glossy finish, the glass back, the aluminum around the sides, and you've got no S Pen. So, of course, the S Pen and where the curves are on the phone is the distinguishing feature. So you can kind of see here, you've got a curved back, sort of the same type of curvature on the back of the Note 5 as you have on the front of the S6 Edge Plus. So I'm going to go through and talk about each phone a little bit, their distinguishing features, then we'll come back and sort of evaluate them as a whole. But spoiler alert, I love both of these phones. They're probably the best phones you can buy. One of the main downsides is the price. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. So let me first go through the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, then we'll get into the Note 5. The Edge Plus a little bit easier to do because the feature set that's changed really isn't that much here. The main thing that you've got on the S6 Edge Plus instead of the Note 5 is you've got your People Edge and your Apps Edge. Now, several of the carriers brought out software updates that allow you to get this on the regular S6 Edge as well, but this was the original software change that Samsung made. So the Apps Edge was the original selling point. You can customize these 5 apps. You see here you can tap the apps, and then you can also tap the settings to go to your Edge screen settings and edit some of your apps. You can change your Edge lighting to on or off. You can activate the People's Edge and the Apps Edge, and also your information screen. But the information screen is something that's been there, so of course you guys remember if you have your phone off and you want to activate some notifications over here on the side, all you have to do is touch that for a bit, and you see there you get the time. Of course you can get some sports scores, your notifications, other things that you might have gotten on your Galaxy Note Edge. You can still get some of that stuff here, just not quite as many third-party apps, but there are never really that many to start with on the Note Edge. So the main feature here is the Apps Edge and the People Edge, which we already saw on the regular S6 Edge. Other than that, we got the same screen size as we do in the Note 5, 5.7 inch. You got this beautiful Super AMOLED display, of course, that Samsung always puts out. But I would argue the one thing that the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus is all about is not necessarily the new feature set, because it doesn't have a lot of new features that distinguish it from its smaller sibling, the S6 Edge. It's all about having a bigger display for your media and also just that badass factor. Because at the end of the day, the Note 5 is more the productivity device, the workhorse device, which I carry all the time. But this phone is the #1 phone that when I take this phone out in public, especially if I don't rock a case on it, you're going to get the most questions from people. They're going to be like, what is this phone? Because people have never seen anything like this, with the curved edges, and especially when it's this big. So some people have already seen the smaller S6 Edge at this point, but especially in gold with these curved edge display, people just think this phone looks badass. I get a lot of compliments on this phone, and just really, really a phone that catches the eye. So if you're the kind of person that likes to make your phone more of a fashion accessory than necessarily a big productivity device, now this of course is a beast in terms of productivity as well. The processor is a beast. You got 4 gigabytes of RAM. You can play games on this, and the battery life is quite good. So I'll talk about those things sort of as a whole. But right now, just talking about the features of the Edge Plus, it's got that more eye-catching feel to it. Now, one other feature I want to talk about, which this phone had, but my Note 5 didn't because it's on Verizon for a while, is Samsung Pay. So you can see here at the bottom, I've got that little, you guys can see there, if you swipe up, I don't want to show all my credit cards, you can swipe up there and easily access Samsung Pay from the home screen. And I found Samsung Pay to be super convenient. Samsung Pay is, in my opinion, way better than Android Pay. You can see right there, you got the app installed as well. Samsung Pay is way better than Android Pay because I don't have to just use NFC. I can also use anywhere there's a magnetic stripe reader, at least one that you can access yourself. It is a bit of a pain when retailers have it behind the counter and then you have to oddly sort of, I don't know, contort your arm around the counter. It's very awkward. You can't really do that. You have to just then pay with your card. But I've found that most places I can replace my regular card with Samsung Pay, and also because you have this swipe up from here to access your cards, it's super convenient. So that's also now going to be on my Note 5. I actually haven't set it up yet because Verizon just pushed the update and I haven't had time this week to add my card because I've been super busy. But again, the main features I think for the Edge Plus, super eye-catching. You got the Apps Edge and the People Edge. I don't even use that much, but I think this phone is the one that gets me the most looks, the most questions, and I like to talk to people about my phone. So if you're into that and you're into having the fashion accessory, this one's definitely a way to go. All right, so I'm going to put that aside, talk about the features the Note 5 has that are sort of specific to it. Then we'll come back and evaluate them together, talk about all the things they have in common. So I already mentioned, let me get that in focus. I already mentioned that the Note 5, of course, has the Samsung Pay option as well, now that I have Verizon. So Samsung Pay is available on there. You can see I've got this super clean screen here on my Note 5 compared to my Edge Plus. I don't know, I like to change up my backgrounds and change up my arrangement on every phone. I guess that's my style. But the Note 5, of course, is more of a productivity device in the sense that the number one feature it has, of course, is the S Pen. So let me talk for a few minutes about the S Pen features. You guys probably already know a lot of them, but I'll show you some of the ones that I use the most. You got Action Memo, your Smart Select, your ScreenWrite, your S Note, your Gmail, and Instagram. These apps are customizable here. So one of the features I use the most, which actually I need to put the S Pen back in there, is the screen off write ability. So you can just take the S Pen out and start writing, and you can just save your message. Terrible handwriting, but you can save your message from right there, and you don't even have to turn on the phone or get off your lock screen. So that's one thing I use a lot, and that of course will get saved then in your Action Memo section. But you can also use Smart Select, which is something that I use a lot for the same purpose. I know Flossie Carter talked about this in his review, but if you go into your Instagram and say you want to send somebody a picture off Instagram, you can use Smart Select to get a really good crop on the photos. So this is one of the best features, I think, for the S Pen. Even if you're not sort of a power user that's using it for business, you can get a crop on a photo, like this picture of these Jordan 4 lasers, and I can then get the Smart Select going, then I can save it. You do whatever I want. I can share it, save it in my scrapbook, save it in my gallery, which I'll do. You can share it with anybody too. I could repost that on Instagram. I could send it to someone on Google+, on Twitter. I can do whatever I want with it. So that's really useful. The Smart Select feature is one of my favorites. And then Smart Select also within there has the ability to take the rolling screenshot. So if you go, for instance, I got the Best Buy webpage up, whatever, we don't care. I just want to show you guys this. Go to Smart Select, or not Smart Select, excuse me, not Smart Select, but ScreenWrite. If you go into ScreenWrite, it'll take a screenshot for you, and then you can write on the screen. But if you go to the bottom here, the bottom left, you can grab Scroll Capture, and then it'll ask you if you want to keep scrolling, so you can keep capturing more and more of your screen. So you see I got all these products here on the Best Buy webpage. Say I want to capture everything that's on the webpage, I can keep going. Then I can hit Done, and then I could share this whole entire scrolling screenshot with anyone I want. Again, I could go down here and share. I could bring up all my various sharing apps, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Or you can just save it to your gallery or save it to your scrapbook. So I think the scrolling screenshot is a huge win, especially if you want to share really large portions of a web page or a list with someone, a friend or someone on a social media site, and I use that a lot as well. So those are three of the things I use the most: Action Memo, Smart Select, and ScreenWrite. S Note, of course, is if you want to take really long notes, And if you go into S Note, you see most of my stuff is action memos because I use action memos more than anything else just to write maybe a grocery list, write a quick note to myself about some products that I'm looking to buy, or take some notes from my research at the university, or jot down a student's grade that I need to input. So I use action memos a lot more than I use the full notes because, of course, for that I'll use my Galaxy Note Pro tablet. So the S Pen, of course, is one of the biggest features. One of the things, of course, that's hugely unfortunate is we all remember S Pen Gate. If you insert this backwards, it's going to break your S Pen sensor, and that's a huge problem. So Samsung should have fixed that. I've never had that issue because, I don't know, I'm always careful when I'm putting the pen back in. But for people who are not careful, that of course is a problem, and Samsung should have fixed that. The other thing I like, of course, many people mentioned, is this new clicky mechanism, which is really about ejecting the S Pen. It does make it a lot easier, but it's also just fun that once you've got your S Pen out and you've got your screen on, once you got your S Pen out and your screen on, you can click it like a physical pen, which is pretty entertaining. All right, so the S Pen features are really what set the Note 5 apart. I also really do think that the Note 5 on the back side is a lot easier to hold because of this curved sort of back that it has on the sides. The curves on the back actually I think are better from sort of a utilitarian standpoint. It's easier to grip, not quite as slippery. The Edge Plus, still just like the regular Edge, sort of I feel like it cuts into my hand sometimes when I hold it with the Edge. It is more substantial than the smaller Edge version, just because of the size, it's easier to hold. But I still think the Note 5 definitely wins in terms of overall being the easiest to hold in the hand. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about really quick is the battery life on both of the phones. So we've sort of discussed the two defining features of these phones. The Note 5 is really a productivity beast. You can do so many things with the S Pen you just can't get with any other phone. The Edge Plus is sort of the fashion accessory that's still got raw power. You can still play your games. You're still going to get the amazing camera, of course. What about the battery life? So on both of these phones, a lot of people were concerned because there's no removable battery like there was with the Note 4. You don't get that removable battery. That's concerning. But I've gotten great battery life from both of these phones. To be honest with you, I get probably on a given day, today I've probably let it sit for a while, but on a day where I'm going really, really hard, I probably get at least 4 hours, probably 4.5 to 5 hours screen on time. I've sort of let it sit for a while. I've only got, you can see there, 2 hours and roughly 4 minutes screen on time. I'm at about 50%. So, you know, right there I'm going to get about, if you project that out linearly, we're getting about 4 hours and 10 minutes screen on time. But with both of these phones, I just charged the Edge Plus. But with both of these phones, I'm getting really good screen on time and probably close to 4.5 to 5 hours with each. That's more than acceptable for me, and I use my phones all day going pretty hard. Always paired with a smartwatch. You guys see I got the Moto 360, which is paired to the Note 5 today. I've also got, of course, you guys have seen the Gear S2, so when I take out the Edge Plus, I have it paired to the Gear S2. So I've always got multiple Bluetooth devices, my Bluetooth speakers and headphones at work and at home, and also paired to Android Auto in the car. So I'm getting great battery life. For me, I think that 4.5 to 5 hours, normally towards the higher side, is really quite good. Of course, the camera and display, like I said, what else can you say? These are the best displays. I mean, they're super saturated, but I like that. I prefer it. They might not have the best color reproduction in terms of accuracy, but I love the way they look. The camera is fantastic. You do get some new manual controls on this camera that you didn't necessarily have before with the S6 and the S6 Edge. So if you go into mode, you've got now Pro mode has all kinds of features. Some of the S6 versions did get some of these features in a software update, but you've got all kinds of things, ISO, white balance. But I think at the end of the day, what really separates these two cameras from the other cameras that are out in the market is these are the best point and shoot cameras. So the G4, I still think with its manual controls, might have an advantage because of the f1.8 aperture in terms of if you're a photography professional or if you really want to play with the settings. But the Note 5 and Edge Plus are the best if you just put it on auto, you start shooting photos, you're going to get amazing shots. So for the average person, that's what's important, and I think that's what's key about these cameras. So I talked about the display, the build quality, the features, the battery life. Let's talk about a few things that I don't like. I already mentioned one of those things, which is the S Pen sort of being able to go in backwards. That's pretty annoying. One of the things I don't like on the Edge Plus I mentioned, which is the grip. The other thing that I don't like is that they took out the IR blaster. You can see on both of the phones, the original S6, S6 Edge had the IR blaster. That's gone because I like to use my Samsung phone to control my 4K Samsung TV. It's really convenient and I prefer to use that. So not having that feature is a pain. I mean, I got a bunch of other phones, so I can't complain, but for people that want to use that feature and this is their only phone, well, then they don't have that option. The other thing, of course, that I don't like about these phones is the fact that there's no removable storage, or sorry, expandable storage. The removable battery is not a big deal because I've had, such a good time with the battery life. It actually hasn't been bad. You can see here, I'm trying to hold both of them, so having the fingerprint scanner there, it's not working as well as it normally would, but I've had a great time with the fingerprint scanner. Actually, it's not quite as accurate as the iPhone, but it's pretty damn good. You can see here the total space and the available space. I've got 15.6 gigs left, but I've tried to be careful and offload my pictures and video to the cloud so that I don't use too much space. You really have to be careful because here with a 32 gigabyte model and no expandable memory, you can use up your memory really quickly, especially if you shoot 4K video, which I did a lot in the beginning just to test out the camera. 4K video looks great, but it also takes up a lot of space. So you see I got 15.63 available on there. Let's take a look just for curiosity what I've got available right now on the S6 Edge Plus. I've got 16.6. So as I said, I've been trying to offload a lot of my higher capacity videos, 4K, etc., just sort of keep it free because all my apps are already taking up a lot of space. But if you're shooting a lot of video in memories, that's definitely not enough. And then, of course, the last thing that I don't like about these phones, as I said, the fingerprint scanner, a couple people asked me about that. Are they accurate? They're accurate, but they're not as accurate as the iPhone. The new iPhone, I think, is still more accurate and a little bit faster. Maybe it's just the shape of the home button that sometimes I mess up putting my finger in the wrong spot. But I've had better luck with the iPhone. I give Apple their credit where it's due on that. But the last thing I don't like about these phones is, well, one more thing, the speaker placement on the bottom. I don't like that at all because, it'd be better to have it on the front. It's definitely better than having it on the back, so it's an improvement over last year. So I can't entirely knock Samsung. And of course, putting it on the front would make this a much bigger chin and bezel. But definitely the speaker placement is not ideal. But the last thing I don't like about these phones is even though they're beautiful premium devices, they have huge price tags. So of course they've come down a little bit in the last 2 months since they've been out. But both of these phones are still going to run you, between $650 and $850, depending on, what size you get and also where you get it from. I paid about $850, I think, for the Edge Plus on AT&T. I only paid $700 for the Note 5 on Verizon right out of the gate. So, depending on where you get it, these phones are expensive. But are they worth it? If you have the money to spend, I think that both of these phones are worth the price. Again, the S6 Edge Plus, it's all about being eye-catching, doing a lot of stuff, but still having your phone be sort of a fashion accessory. There's not a lot of new features, but if you want that big screen, you want that wow factor, this is definitely the phone for you. The gold just looks crazy in the light. The Note 5 is all about being a raw power beast and also productivity beast with the S Pen. So if you take a lot of notes, if you crop a lot of pictures on Instagram, if you need to take, scrolling screenshots, do all of these things that the S Pen affords you that no other phone can do, the Note 5 is really the best in the business. So would I recommend these phones? If you're willing to spend the money, absolutely. I think these two phones are the best phones on the market right now. I use these phones every day. One of these phones is always in my rotation every day. These have been my daily driver. The LG G4 kind of got kicked out of my rotation when these came because I wanted to use both of these every day. And then I always got another phone that I'm carrying with me that I'm reviewing, like the OnePlus 2, the Moto X Pure, or the Xperia Z5. So I definitely recommend them. They're expensive, but I think they're worth it. All right, guys, so this has been my review, my way too late review of the Note 5 and the S6 Edge Plus. I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts. One other thing, actually, before I get out of here, one of the reason I think these are worth it, and one reason I love Samsung, is that you're always going to get a lot of accessories. So you guys have seen me do a ton of case reviews for the Edge Plus and the Note 5. You're not going to get that, not going to get as many options with LG or HTC or even Motorola. You guys know there's a shortage of cases right now for the Moto X Pure. You're never going to have a shortage of case options when it comes to Samsung phones, much like Apple because all the case manufacturers are making cases for them. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're like me and you like to rock a lot of cases, this is a really, really good option to look at with Samsung, even though the price is expensive. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, as it really helps the channel. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Also, if you want to check out my icon packs, I'll drop the links below in the description. A lot of people usually ask. You can check out my social media, Google Plus and Twitter, in the description as well if you want to follow me online. You can also check out news.highonandroid.com and dopetechdaily.com for more Android news and giveaways. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for checking it out.